It is New Year's Eve, 1610. Heavily armed Hungarian soldiers surge through the freezing darkness, battering the gates of Chete Castle. They look for the lady of the estate. Today, she is remembered as the Blood Countess, a folklore monster said to have tortured hundreds of young women to bathe in their blood. These lurid tales of bloodbaths didn't exist during her lifetime. They first appeared in print in 1729, over a century after she died. Peeling back the vampire folklore reveals the historical Elizabeth Bathory. Her documented life presents a true crime story far more complex and arguably darker than the legend. Elizabeth was born into the highest tier of the Hungarian aristocracy. She was highly educated, fluent in multiple languages, and a devout Calvinist. When her husband died in 1604, she assumed full control of her estates. This map of Transylvania shows the scale of her holdings. She managed border fortresses, vast farmlands, and 17 villages entirely on her own. By 1610, rumors of atrocities reached the court in Vienna. A local minister began making public complaints, forcing King Matthias II to order an official investigation. As a wealthy, independent widow, Elizabeth sat in a precarious position. Her power made her a target, and the investigation would determine if she was a prolific killer or the victim of a coordinated political ruin. The evidence collected was massive. These historical depositions contain statements from over 300 witnesses. They describe girls being starved, beaten with clubs, and frozen to death in the winter cold. For years, the disappearances of peasant girls were ignored. In 17th century Hungary, the lives of commoners rarely concerned the central government. The case changed in 1609 when Elizabeth opened a gynaeceum, a finishing school for the daughters of the lower nobility. When these aristocratic girls began to disappear, their families demanded royal intervention. High-ranking court officials who were never subjected to torture provided the most damning evidence. They gave detailed, first-hand accounts of the sadism they witnessed while serving at her castles. The testimony of her own social peers cemented her image as a serial killer. Her decision to target the nobility finally ended her years of legal immunity. Modern scholars began reevaluating these records in the 1980s. While the testimonies are numerous, they exist alongside significant political and financial motives to frame the Countess. Geopolitics played a major role. The Habsburg Empire was Catholic, while Elizabeth challenged the king's authority in Transylvania. Furthermore, King Matthias owed Elizabeth a massive debt, which would be cancelled if she were convicted. The investigator, Georgi Thurzo, was also a rival. He had clear ambitions to dismantle the Bathory family's influence to benefit his own political standing. The legal process itself was highly irregular. Her servants were tortured into confessions and executed within days. Yet Elizabeth was never put on trial or allowed to speak in her own defense. Locking her away allowed the king to cancel his debts and neutralized a major political threat. Her guilt was a convenient outcome for every man involved in the investigation. To prevent the crown from seizing the Bathory estates in a public scandal, Elizabeth's own family agreed to her imprisonment. While her servants were burned alive or beheaded, she was quietly detained without a verdict. She spent the rest of her life in confinement. Elizabeth remained at Chete Castle until she was found dead in her room in 1614, at the age of 54. Historians today grapple with two contradictory sets of evidence. It is difficult to dismiss 300 testimonies, including those from untortured noblemen who described the mutilated bodies. Yet it is equally impossible to ignore how perfectly her downfall served the financial and political interests of the men who condemned her. Elizabeth Bathory remains an unresolvable historical paradox. Her legacy is a reminder of how easily the truth can be obscured when a genuine monster and a political scapegoat look exactly the same.